There's mutiny in the Harley Davidson boardroom. Watch this video. Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're all well. So if you've been interested in the Harley Davidson world for the last few weeks, you would have noted that the much maligned CEO Jochen Zeitz is stepping away from Harley Davidson, but he's not gone yet. Now, within the boardroom itself, there's been some shenanigans going on as well, because some investment companies, they've had members on the board as well. One has resigned from the Harley Davidson board. And basically, they've spouted that there's a trio of Jochen Zeitz and a couple of other board members who are ruling the roost there. And they've been there for so long, 18 years, 20 plus years, 27 years. They've been there for so long that these are the instigators of the demise of Harley Davidson. And you kind of think, well, listen, you've been there a long time. You should know by now that what you've been doing has basically driven down Harley Davidson in terms of sales, in terms of appreciation, in terms of overall brand awareness or brand success, I should say. What's going wrong? Well, we know global sales are down. We know domestic sales are down. We know prices are really high. We know they're out of favor with a lot of people in the Harley Davidson world who are always big Harley Davidson fans, okay? You don't have to hate the brand. You don't have to hate the motorcycle, but you can really detest what the company have been doing. This is what a lot of people have been saying about Harley Davidson as a company, about the dealerships, especially about the prices over the last few years. Now, the opposite view of this is, so while you're buying quality, you're buying a premier brand, and you're doing all this kind of stuff. But I've always said on this channel, you can spout that as much as you like. You can say that the bikes are good bikes or bad bikes. I believe they're good bikes, right? Even the new ones, I believe they're good bikes. But you've got to admit that at some point, regardless of how good a product is, those products, those expensive products, are only going to appeal to people who can afford them. And when the economy takes a downturn, when people are trying to figure out which is the best way to go and where to put their money, they're not going to put their money towards expensive brands. Now, if you're a big fan of Harley Davidson, for example, you're always going to say, do you know what? I love Harley Davidson. I love a Harley. I'm just going to buy an older bike. That's it. I'm still going to be in the hog chapter. I'm still going to be riding around with my mates, whatever, at the weekend. I'm still going to say, Harley Davidson, till I die and all that sort of stuff. You're just not going to buy new. So that means for the company, if you're not generating new sales, regardless of how expensive or how much profit margin you think that you're gonna have on your premier bikes, your big tourers, it's only going to go one way. It's going to go downhill. Now, some of the big mistakes that Harley Davidson have made in recent years have been, well, one of the biggest ones is dropping the Sportster, right? Where you've got, they've sold those rights to Chinese manufacturers who've effectively copied the Sportster. They're selling them around the world, or starting to sell them around the world. That same engine, those same engines from the Sportsters could easily have been changed and modified just to be, say, compliant with emissions around the globe as well. There are so many other manufacturers around the world who are making air-cooled engines that are compliant. So why can't Harley Davidson? Those were entry-level bikes, yeah, to a certain degree. They were hovering around the $10,000 pound mark. That was how a lot of people got into the brand as well. They got their Sportsters. In fact, people stuck with their Sportsters. They love Sportsters. I'm a big fan of the Sportster. I always was. But I think they made a big mistake there, and lots of people recognise that. Now, the other huge mistake they made, in my opinion, was bringing in the Nightster. Not because they brought in the Nightster, not because they brought in the Sportster S, not because they brought anything with the Revolution Max engine, because I think they just got it all wrong. The whole strategy with the Revolution Max engine bikes was completely wrong, but especially on the Nightster. If you recall, the whole marketing campaign and the launch of the Nightster was that you can take this bike and you can just change it with the way you want. And look, in our promo video of this brand new motorcycle, we've got these 6 or 7 custom bike builders, and we're going to take this bike and we're going to completely rip it apart and change it all up and do something different. So what does that tell you about the product that you're trying to sell? The product that you're trying to sell, you're saying to people, it's not good enough. You're going to have to change it. Now, we know Harley Davidson world is that you change your bikes, you accessorize and everything. But the whole point is that you should be selling the bike that it is, not saying it, no, you got to take your bike to a custom bike builder so that they can completely change it. That's not what you should do on a marketing campaign and on a product launch. So for that, they made a massive cock up. The whole strategy since CEO Jochen Zeitz took over was to maximize profits. And in some ways, they bucked the trend in that their profit margins were going up on certain years, but their sales were going down. So you think, well, okay, well, what's going on here? But the problem is that you can only do that for a short period. Their commitment to the electric bikes hasn't really worked. Whilst they've kind of offset Livewire still aren't selling loads of bikes at all. And, you know, I've made different videos about that. And we all know what Livewire are, what electric bikes are, especially expensive electric bikes. People aren't going to buy them in numbers. There'll always be people who buy bikes. There'll always be people who buy expensive bikes. But my argument this whole time, the last 3 or 4 years I've been talking about this, it's the amount of numbers of people that are going to continue. So when you've got dealerships closing down, when you've got sales down, when you've got a general feeling around brand new Harley Davidsons that isn't good, that isn't positive in an overall sense, then you kind of think that people do not like the direction that Harley Davidson gone in. And if you've got a trio within the board itself that are leading the pack, and then the rest of the board members are they're either going against it or they can't do anything about it, they've got massive problems within the boardroom. So much so that one has resigned, so much so that, you know, that they're trying to vote in somebody else. Now, what do? Is this a quick turnaround for Harley Davidson? No, you're going to have to get rid of pretty much all the board members. You're going to have to start again. But is that likely to happen? No, you're always going to have some residual kind of board member influence. That's there. So the problem is, well, if they're going to be a strong enough person or persons to go in there and take Harley Davidson into the direction that most people really want it to go. Can they bring back cheaper bikes? Now, regardless of what you're doing with the Nightster, most people don't even like the Nightster. Most people think, especially that the Nightster went over to Thailand for its production, people are kind of thinking, oh, I don't even want that now anyway. So, you know, you've got bikes that don't even sell in numbers. You're trying to drop the price just to get people to buy something that they don't want to even buy. You've alienated that public anyway. So what do? Do you revert back? Do you try and backtrack a little bit and say, right, okay, hold on a minute. We've got to stop with these trying to sell these expensive bikes all the time. We've got to offer something different. We've got to offer something for the new generation. We've got to make a concerted effort to bring back that nostalgia and bring back what people really valued and what Harley Davidson riders around the world, but certainly in the biggest market in the United States, what they really value. You've got to kind of get that patriotic feeling back. Now, this is coming from someone from the UK. This is somebody from outside the mix, as it were. But if you want to have that, you know, iconic Harley Davidson American brand, you've got to make it American. You've got to make it what people want to buy and people can afford to buy. Because if they can't, then it's only going to go one way. And regardless of what goes on in the boardroom, if they continue with the same kind of mindset that, we don't really think about the consumer. We just want those high value consumers, high value customers, which I've talked about in videos, a couple of years ago. Then that's all they're thinking about is stocks and shares. All they're thinking about is, the bottom line, as it were, in terms of ultimate profits. They don't care about you. They don't care about the brand. They don't care about the tradition. They care about money. Now, you could say, well, all businesses think like that. Of course they do. All businesses do think like that. But at the same time, you've got to have somebody within there who fully embraces and understands what Harley Davidson is and not what Harley Davidson, could be in their image. You've always got to think about what Harley Davidson is to the most people. And if most people are not buying your product, or if most fans of your brand are not buying your new products, then you've got a massive issue. And that's something that you've got to address. Who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of months? This is when the big reshuffle in the boardroom is going to take place. Who knows? Nobody really knows. But at this point, we can see there's big mutiny in the boardroom. Board members, directors are leaving. Big investment groups are wondering, well, should we even have our money in Harley Davidson now? Now, you think, well, big investment groups, yes. Are they any better than Harley Davidson, in terms of the problems within there themselves? Well, they're part of the problem, but also part of the solution, aren't they? But they're only thinking about investment in their money. And if they can see that sales are down, if they can see that overall awareness is down, if they can see that overall appreciation is down on their investment, then they're going to be kind of, spitting feathers a little bit, and they're going to be thinking, well, what the hell's going on here? They may not have the answers, but they can certainly see where the problems are, just like a lot of other people in the industry and a lot of people just watching on observers like yours truly have seen this for the last few years. And I've been projecting this for the last few years, and I've got a lot of hate out there. I've got a lot of criticism out there for having these views. But I've always said this, that if you have X, Y, Z, ducks in a row that are all swimming in the wrong direction, whatever negative opinion you want, if that's the way it's going, it's only going to go in one way. And I've been saying this for the last few years. Now, not all is lost. Of course, not all is lost. But we know that big companies can go under. We can get into big financial trouble. And we've been saying this for a long, long time now, that yes, you're selling big bikes and you're selling expensive bikes. But if the fashion changes, if the trends change, if the economics of the situation, if the economy changes, if there's a downturn, if people who you were relying on buying your big bikes, big expensive bikes, don't buy them anymore, even those ones who have lots of money, let's say their taste change, they go from Harley Davidsons, they go back to cars, or they go back to boats, or they go back to something else. If those people don't buy your products, then the traditional buyers who you forced out of the market are never going to buy your product. Therefore, it's only one way. And that's what the investment companies can see. That's what the big business people behind this can see in Harley Davidson, that they've had a shock to the system. They had a disaster 2024 year with that DEI issue. Stock prices have gone all the way down. Overall health of the business is bad, and they're selling less and less bikes. 2025 isn't going to be a great year, is it? That's why they're coming in now heavy-handed to say something has got to change. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But is this a mutiny in the Harley Davidson boardroom that everybody wants? Do you want to have this? Do you want to get shot of everybody? And who do you have in their place? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, keep on watching the videos. Don't forget, you can get all the books that I sell on Amazon, or you can go directly to the website, RevelatorAlf.com/books for all your motorcycle books, lifestyle, occupational books as well. Right, and with that, I'll leave you to it. Catch you again now. Bye.